Hi, my name is John Eisenhower. I am a member of the Eagle Harbor Congregational United Church of Christ on Bainbridge Island in the Pacific Northwest Conference. I'm also a software developer and owner of Combi Corporation, the creator of the new B1 platform being introduced by the Western region of the UCC. It's my pleasure today to walk you through some of the rationale of why we're creating this platform, and I hope extending a warm invitation to you and your local church to join us. In a simple question that can we make our theological statement that they may all be one into an IT statement and a technology statement as an issue of justice for all of us. In March of 2016, the Strategic Task Force of the United Church of Christ, the Strategic Visioning Planning Task Force, published a wonderful document, one that inspired me greatly. And in conversation, first with national office and more subsequently with conferences, have said, what if we actually made this true? What difference would it make in our lives? And I hope that you'll take the time, pause this video, read the statement. It's a very powerful statement. And the things I've highlighted in red were things that at the time on a piece of paper I highlighted with a pen, said, I actually have been doing things like this in the for-profit world for some time. I bet I could bring those best practices here and make ministry in UCC a more vibrant person-to-person thing than we've ever had before. So specifically, how would we encourage authentic connections between people and between their passions and things happening in the real world if all we're doing is communicating on paper to each other? And that starts with some big problems, starts to address some big problems that we believe need to be solved. And the first of those is our communication on paper through church bulletins on Sunday morning, through printed, stamped and mailed newsletters, have been working forever and ever, and we think of them as effective. But at the end of the day, if I wanted to find what you're doing in your church, or I wanted you to know what's happening in my church, how in the world could you do that if our only form of communication is on printed paper? So there's no way for people inside our church or inside the church to know what we're doing, and there's certainly no way for people outside the church to know what we're doing. And the net result of that is a growing feeling amongst our clergy that they're feeling unsupported, they're feeling isolated, they're putting great work effort as local churches into doing wonderful ministries that no one shows up for, no one's aware of. And at the same time, there are neighboring churches or churches elsewhere in UCC who have expertise, who have best practices, who have time and talent that they could bring to bear on those same problems, making those ministries even more effective. We're hoping that we can start bridging some of these gaps between our local churches and our clergy. And in doing so, one of the issues that you'll see across this isn't always a size issue, it isn't always an urban-rural issue, but the difference between our have churches when it comes to technology and our have not churches is enormous. We have churches with glorious websites, beautiful mobile apps, social networking. It's amazing. We have other churches who can't afford the stamps to put on newsletters. I see this as a fundamental justice issue. If we are going to be united as the United Church of Christ, it's my hope that we can start doing things in a way that raises the level brings in the tide and raises the level for all of our boats, all of our local churches. Forgive me, I live on an island. I'll be using a lot of aquatic metaphors today. We're also noticing, as recently as this last Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, resurgence of the Women's March and other Black Lives Matter marches, water rights, immigration reform, border wall marches, that we have this growing swell of progressive people who don't even necessarily know that there is a United Church of Christ, much less that we provide a theological framework for what they're doing. So although they may know the who, the what, the when, and the where of what they're doing, we can help provide a why and hopefully use this as a meaningful invitation to invite them into covenant and ministry with us in the United Church of Christ. Lastly, I'd like to say that every local church, every church camp, every conference, even a national office has been starting from scratch as if they're the only United Church of Christ, starting from scratch building websites, starting from scratch building communication and messages. And I would like to hope to think that if we can pool our resources and come together, that we can get rid of a lot of the redundancy, which is simply wasted time and money that could be more valuable in true ministry for ourselves as church members and for the wider world. Now, in order to accomplish this, I've been in conversation with the 8 conference ministers around the Western region and have come up with a short list of things I think we can start with. And my hope is that we are starting with something that we can offer to your local church that you can say yes to, that will invite you into essentially a co-op approach to automating the entire United Church of Christ. And the first is that we need to bring the same suite of technology and services to all of our churches, not just to the large or the wealthy churches, but to all of our churches. And have better and deeper connections created between our local churches and between our churches and their areas, associations, conferences, and the denomination. And finally, to find something that allows us to do more urgent, more respectful, and a more sacred approach to dealing with some of our justice and witness ministries. When I say sacred, I'm talking fundamentally about data. When we're using what we perceive to be free services such as Facebook or Google, Instagram, we need to be aware that these are for-profit platforms who are taking the data, including names and addresses of people doing ministries, and are making that data available in ways that could put those very ministries and the people doing them at risk. That's inappropriate. Similarly, we have people creating new liturgical arts, hymns and art pieces and sculptures. And as soon as they're being submitted to these public platforms, frequently the rights and titles to those works are going to the platform and giving the original author simply permission to use their own creative work. We don't think that's correct, and we would like to see an improvement to that as we go through. And so it's my delight to introduce a humble approach to a solution to some of these problems, and one that I hope we will grow in together as a shared ministry to create a more vibrant and more connected United Church of Christ in the coming years. This is B1. And yes, it does come from they may all be one, and I'm hoping as part of the herd that resonates with you, but I'm also hoping that as a name of a platform, this is not off-putting to people who are not yet in the church or who don't know who we are. And a simple question, will you be one? And what you're being one with is a new suite of technology, specifically tools that help you enter data once and create vibrant websites, mobile app, e-newsletters, manage your social networking such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, in ways that are respectful to the information, the data, and the people involved with it. And then also provide calendaring tools, mapping tools for event management, volunteer management, group management around your church. Along with that, we'll be providing a payment mechanism, and our hope is to make this less expensive than the other options you may have for taking online contributions. For instance, our national church is at 4% of every dollar donated online goes to processing that money and not to the ministries involved. We're hoping to improve on that by having a co-op approach to money. Now, I'm going to be building on three very old UCC statements, and if you look in the upper left-hand corner of the coming slides, you'll see these. These are from our very beginning in 1957, in essentials unity. And we are not, as a United Church of Christ, a very unified organization. In fact, some would argue we're not organized at all. I would go not quite that far and to say, yes, we are. But if you look at this person in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, if that person were to enter a local church, we currently ask them to do a completely arbitrary and separate thing to enter the conference, and another completely arbitrary and separate thing to enter the denomination, at least from the perspective of finding resources, finding information online. So going to completely independent websites that were created by independent people. And moreover, if something vibrant and wonderful appears on a local church website or in a local church calendar, it requires a separate second extra effort to have that information forwarded to a conference, area association, somebody that has to consider it, decide what to do with it, repurpose it, post it on their site, and then an entirely separate action has to happen to get it onto a national site, and then additional actions to get it distributed back around the UCC in ways that it might be useful and meaningful to others who are interested in that ministry, interested in that cause. So as we're looking at this, going from the lower left-hand corner to the upper right-hand corner of the slide, we would like to make this considerably more transparent and intuitive, that when you walk in metaphorically into the front door of your local church, you've walked into the entire United Church of Christ. There's a second part of this that we've missed entirely as church. And looking across the bottom line of this slide, we notice that this person who may have never been in an United Church of Christ before, never been in our local church before, already has agency. They have first connection friends through social networking, through professional connections, through civic connections, and they are bringing passion to the table. They are bringing probably a history of volunteerism to the table. They're just not doing it through the church. So as the church has the opportunity to be a curator and to be a packager of things for this passionate person to go do. What we haven't been taking advantage of is having that person then push that out to their social networks, radically augmenting our ability as a church to communicate to folks good work to be done in the world. It's a wonderful world. These are wonderful people. Let's help take advantage of that and move forward as we go forward. I hope you'll take some time with this slide. Forgive the graphics, but the sentiment is there. Our second big UCCism in non-essentials diversity. Not everybody who comes to church is interested in worship. And not everybody who's interested in worship is interested in the same cause or the same issues. So if you see somebody who is bringing a social passion to feeding hungry kids or doing habitat builds or to marching with Black Lives Matter or marching with the women's movement, any of these issues, that might be the only thing that person is passionate and interested about, and that is a small slice of what the UCC can do and is addressing. So if you'll think of this metaphor as a prism, and think of, for instance, the green ribbon of the prismatic light being, say, Earth Ministry. Then if I look back through that green stripe through the prism, I should be able to see the entire UCC on the other side through the perspective or through the filter of me being passionate about Earth Ministry, or similarly children's ministry, or simply racial ministry, or immigration justice. And I shouldn't have to weed through the rest of the UCC that I may not have any connection to in order to find those things that are passionate to me. So we're hoping to take advantage of doing some tagging and some filtering within a social platform to help people quickly identify those things that are interesting to them that we are already doing as United Church of Christ. And the biggest difference here between this and, say, a Facebook or Instagram or Twitter is where they are trying to lift up an army of one. Look what I had for lunch. Look where I'm at. Look what I am doing. We want to say out loud, we're in this together and you are not alone. So the idea of having a social network platform whose social intent is to bring us together in real time and real space to do real work in Jesus' name is what I hope you'll get as excited about as I am. And our final UCCism in all things charity, if we take all of these wonderful causes, all these parts of ministry, and all these passionate people, and can find the trigger points where we can match a person's passion with their available time and resource, with these resources and the commitment of local churches and other settings of the UCC, and create these moments where Jesus can come into the world through our actions and turn those moments into the movement. Those little two letters, V and E, between moment and movement is what I'm hoping we'll accomplish as we move through this world together. Now, how this works, we're talking about something where you would go to a web page, log in to the web page, and be on a portal. And from this portal, you'll be able to drag and drop pictures and words. And as you collect words and images and videos and hyperlinks together and around a theme, that becomes a familiar word, an article. Those articles can then be used to create websites, mobile apps, e-newsletters, SMS text, email blitzes, Facebook posts, Instagram posts, tweets, all from a single data entry source. And our hope is what we're creating is that if you know how to use some of these online tools like Facebook, like Yelp, like Amazon, like Expedia, if you've ever ordered anything or formed an opinion about something or sent a picture to a friend, you have the skills it's going to take to be successful with B1. We've tried to adopt those best practices, so it's a drag and drop and world. The difference here is we're also asking you to tag it with what cause your article is associated with it, and what part of ministry. Is this fellowship? Is it service? Is it worship? Is it education? And as we're doing that, that makes it findable later by anybody across your church, anybody across your conference, or frankly, anybody in the world who has interest in that topic. So I will introduce myself again as John Eisenhower. I'm a lifelong UCCer. I was born into the UCC to a UCC minister. I'm married to a UCC pastor. Reverend Dr. D. Eisenhower is senior pastor at the Eagle Harbor Congregational Church, where I'm a member here on Bainbridge Island. And what I am hoping happens here is that this evolves as a shared ministry. Right now, there is some force of will involved because I am also a software developer. I have done enterprise class scaled service solutions for for-profit businesses for my whole career. I'm now seeing an opportunity to bring what I know how to do with large-scale managed service solutions and bring it to the church I love. And I'm hoping that you can all accept me and accept this as something that happens. As time goes on, we're hoping that this will emerge as its own, essentially, corporate entity. Right now, since there are no corporate structures at the regional level, this is being accomplished by Combi, my company, having contracts with each of the 8 Western regional conferences, and we'll hope that will expand to other conferences as we show success in the near future. So if you have reported your church's census data to your conference and that's been reported to national, we have a guess as to about how large your church is. We're trying to keep this easy and chunky for pricing, and this is a co-op model, so we're trying to do a reasonable share of your church paying for your services as a share of what we're all doing through B1. And what this is generally coming out to is around 50 cents per month per member, but then some heavy rounding so that small churches, meaning 100 or less, are paying as if they were 50 people in their church, and the medium-sized churches, which is 100 to 200, are paying as if there were 150 in their church. And then similarly, 200 to 400 or 400 above have been averaged based on statistical norms right off of the card or the national census data from the UCC. This will be your first year dues. We hope that they're not onerous. If they are, we have baked into the model the ability for grants and scholarships, so please let us know when you say you're interested. If these are numbers you can't afford, we want you to afford it. We want you to participate. We want your church involved. Now, having said that, if you look at your current budget, we believe you'll find that you are spending money right now to host a website, probably. You are certainly spending money on toner and paper and printing and probably stamps and time to fold and mail physical newsletters. If you can see your way to doing an e-newsletter or an online emailed newsletter instead of a folded, printed, mailed paper newsletter, those are places you are currently spending money. And if you add up the money you're spending doing these communications using paper methods, it's our belief that you'll find that you're going to spend the same or less to participate in B1 than you are now. In other words, this is money that's already in your budget. You don't have to find new money to do it. And if there is money that goes above and beyond, let us know. We'll see what we can do to supplement so that you can afford to do this with us and for us. So again, to recap, there will be a one-time setup fee for your church. That's simply acknowledging that we want to make sure that you have a glorious looking website, that we've got the right information in, that we know who your members are so that they can be invited to participate. You'll be getting your own website and mobile app, and we want to make sure this is set up in a way that speaks from your heart to your people. So the setup fee is not intended to be onerous, but it does exist and is there. And then after that, asking you to pay annually in advance for your services as we go through. I do want to reiterate once again that all 8 of the Western Region conferences have signed contracts, are endorsing this. Your conference offices will be using this tool. It's our hope that you will use it too. Finally, I want to say that this has been a labor of love. I'm going to leave a comment section on the page. It's down below here. If you can click on that and let me know any thoughts, any concerns you have, it will be my pleasure to answer you personally and directly. And it will be also my great pleasure to welcome you on board and my sincere hope that you'll be one.